if that's what the Indian New Zealanders believe in, they'll vote for change and they'll vote for the national government. And I say that wholeheartedly because I think we can really make a difference.
National, which typically has a mainly white and middle-class turnout at its annual conference, has been approached by a number of Indian New Zealanders who want to stand for the party, and John Key has said he was keen to see an Indian in Parliament. "We think that's a big constituency in New Zealand and one that needs representation," he said.
We want to, and I've made it very clear on numerous occasions, I want to have an Indian Member of Parliament in National's ranks. We're very proud to have had Pansy Wong as a first Chinese Member of Parliament, and I think our Parliament deserves to have and would benefit enormously from an Indian Member of Parliament. So we're very hopeful this year. I mean, our poll ratings look good. There seems to be a lot of support for us.
According to the most recent census, the Indian community is the fastest growing ethnic community in New Zealand. Just over 100,000 people identified as being Indian in the census last year, a 68% increase on 2001.
We want Indian support. We think that we can be very supportive of the community, and I think we can make a real difference to New Zealand, and we hope we get that chance.
National fielded an Indian candidate in the 2005 election when Hillsborough Baptist pastor Ravi Masuku challenged Prime Minister Helen Clark in her Mount Albert electorate seat.
I have decided to run for election because I was not happy the way things were moving in this country. That's the reason I put up my hand and I said, I will stop all this nonsense that's happening here. And New Zealand is a beautiful country. I have made this as my home and I want to contribute towards its development. That's what my contribution to New Zealand is. I have said at my campaign launch, a great New Zealander went to India and he conquered the highest mountain peak, Mount Everest. And I have come from New Zealand, India. I have come from India to New Zealand. I have pitched my tent here and I will conquer Mount Albert.
The Prime Minister unsurprisingly beat him with a comfortable margin of almost 15,000 votes. And Ravi then narrowly missed entering Parliament through National's list. The 51-year-old pastor said he was keen to run against Helen Clark again this year and was going through the selection process for National. He appeared confident of achieving a higher list ranking that would give him a good chance of getting into Parliament next time. Ravi says that he is still very much in the fray and doing what is required to be done. He has been busy organising some meetings with several communities and launched a relentless door-to-door campaign. He said Indians in New Zealand were generally not very politically active, partly because migrants often sided with whoever was in power at the time. That's true with any migrants, he said. They don't like to get on the wrong side of those who are in power.
If criminals are going in and out of prison and they are walking in the streets, I said, I have a solution here. I will reduce, with God's help and with your help, in 5 years' time, this number of 8,500 to half. And what this Labour government does is encouraging welfare dependency. It's treating a symptom, it's not eradicating the cause.
Why do you think the National Party should nominate you in order to run for the Parliament again?
Well, National Party can just give me a list ranking and put me in Parliament, but I would like to run through an electorate, and I have chosen this. It's not the National Party. I have chosen Mount Albert electorate, and I like to challenge the Prime Minister. That's the reason I have chosen.
What has been your engagement with the communities?
Oh, as I told you in my speech, I have gone to schools. I still go to schools. I go to bowling clubs. I meet different cross section of people in the electorate, and people talk to me. They call me, and I'm not an MP. I don't hold any office, but still people call me and say, "This is my problem. Will you help me?" People pour me out with their calls.
Can I say to the role models present, and you're all role models, because anyone that votes National in Mount Albert is a role model. And I've got to say, I've got to give you the bad news before I give you the good news, Ravi. There's nothing about you that Helen Clark would like. A Baptist minister of religion, I don't think you would go over well with Helen Clark. But that's what I like about you, Ravi. I went out door knocking with Ravi, door to door to door to door, during the last campaign, and he worked very hard. And I know, Ravi, that God's on your side, because this is what you do for a living. Door knock for the National Party in Mount Albert to get the first Indian man into the Parliament, and you're not paid by anyone except the Lord. So he's on our side. That's one vote job.
All credit to Vavi. He has volunteered to stand at Mount Albert and have very good party vote result, and we noted that, and he's continued to work hard. I think it's that type of candidate that we are very interested in and really absolutely proud of him.
In the last election, I had about 8,488 party votes, which was an increase of more than 100% from previous election for the National Party. And as far as the electorate vote is concerned, I had about 6,169 votes. So there is a definite improvement from 2002 election from the Nationals' perspective. And this time, and with my campaigning and with my door knocking, and people know me, and I have been helping people. People come to me for all sorts of help. Even though I am not an MP, they are coming to me for help, and I am helping them. I'm sure that I would make a definite dent in Mount Albert this time.
Ravi has worked very hard for us. I think he has a very strong reputation. He did a wonderful job for us in 2005, and he's worked hard in the Mount Albert community. No one would expect him to beat the Prime Minister in a very strong Labor seat, but I think he showed that he's a man of great talents and great ability, and look, I'm very confident he'll do well in 2008.
I have always been in the fray. Ever since the last elections, I have never stopped working in Mount Albert electorate. I have been active in all the meetings, and I have conducted dinners, I have conducted meetings, public meetings, and I am in touch with the electorate all throughout the year.
What sort of issues would you be pursuing if you were to enter the parliament, if you were to become an MP?
Well, even without becoming an MP, I have been pursuing two most important things in New Zealand. The first thing is, we are all concerned about law and order. Day after day, the burglaries are increasing, the murders are increasing, crime rate is increasing, imprisoning rate is increasing. So we have to stop this, and we have to reduce this. So I have been working on reducing the prison population and transforming the prisoners to be responsible citizens of this nation. And I have been successful in transforming them.
Mm-hmm. Now, what sort of plank are you adopting in order to woo your electorate into voting you?
Well, there are different issues. Law and order, as I said, is one issue. The other thing is, one of the issues that the nation is facing is a lack of proper education for all children. And I want to ensure that every child of this nation attains the minimum required educational standards. Because without education, without computer knowledge, they cannot get any employment. So every child, I want every child in this nation to attain minimum educational standards so that they can be employed, they can earn their livelihood.
Thank you everyone for coming today and getting our launch off to such a fantastic start. The 26th of January 1950, something more happened, and that was Republic Day, when India proudly became an independent republic.
But National has a battle on its hands if it wants to secure a big portion of the Indian vote, because it is a constituency that Labor puts considerable time and effort into. Senior Labor MPs, including the Prime Minister Helen Clark, are often seen attending functions and celebrations with the Indian community, although the party does not have an Indian MP. The party's sole representative from the subcontinent is Ashraf Chowdhury, who is Pakistani.
I think that during the 8 years I've been Prime Minister of a Labor-led government, it has been a real flowering of the ethnic communities in New Zealand. I think for the first time they've really felt valued and included, and that's the way it's going to be under the government that I lead. And I very much valued the overwhelming support we've had from the many ethnic minority communities and faith minority communities of New Zealand.
The Prime Minister predicted National faced an uphill battle to get more ethnic diversity into its caucus. Helen Clark said National's party conferences and meetings are very narrowly based in comparison with Labor.
Our Labor government's been working very hard on modernising the relationship with India because, well, we've got the old things in common, like speaking English and having been in the Empire and now the Commonwealth and legal systems and cricket. That's not enough today. Today we have to be looking at the trade, we have to be looking at the air links, we have to be looking at tourism and education. So Phil Goff has got an agreement from the Indian Trade Minister to be talking about a study on a free trade agreement. We've got the Air Services Agreement, we've got cooperation in education, lots of things happening.
She said they have a lot of catching up to do, and that she wouldn't think on their present structure and organisation it would be easy for them. She exuded confidence in the abilities of the diverse migrant ethnic mix and thanked them for their continued unstinting support.
And I'm very conscious when I come to a major Indian evening with cultural performance that these classical Indian dances, they take years and years of training, dedication, devotion, teaching to reach a very high standard of perfection. So it's always a joy to see that done. And then also to see the folk culture as well, the Gujarati dance with harvest from the fields, the temple dances. There's culture at lots of different levels, from the folk level to the high arts.
National has a Chinese MP in Pansy Wong and a handful of Maori MPs. Key said selection would ultimately come down to ability, but he would like to see more Maori, Pacific Island and Asian faces in National's caucus. Increasingly, the battle of wooing the large Indian community is not just relegated to Labor or National. The 2005 general election saw almost all the parties fielding at least a couple of Indians in their ranks, although none made it into the parliament. The mood generally in the increasingly politically aware Indian community is of a growing concern of not having one of their own representatives in parliament. A great section in the camp wonders at this lack of representation, despite having seen their numbers grow to over 100,000 over the last 150 years.
I think 2008, I like to think that a lot of Indian New Zealanders have approached us and say, well, we like what our national party's policy, particularly on family, on self-reliance, on economic growth, and on law and order, and I'm looking forward to winning the election with the help of the Indian community.
Well, we can only do what we're doing now, which is getting out and engaging, making sure that we've got good candidates and we have the right policies. As I say, I think we're doing very well. Polling seems to indicate that our support is actually ahead of Labor's with the Indian community, and that's very encouraging. But I say, in the end, it's on the day that you vote that counts, and all we can do is lay ourselves bare, if you like, and allow people to examine our messages. But we want Indian support. We think that we can be very supportive of the community, and I think we can make a real difference to New Zealand, and we hope we get that chance.
In the last 20 years, things have changed. Nowadays, the number of Indian New Zealanders have shown interest in politics have increased. They have learned because you have to participate, you have to get involved. It's not about I want to be a politician tomorrow, and I think that is one. More individuals are showing interest, so that's good. Number two, the political parties are getting the messages. So I am very confident, National Party, I'm looking forward for Indian New Zealanders to join me in the Parliament.
Traditionally they have been strongly supportive of the Labour Party. In fact, I'd say that today the majority of Indians still vote Labour, and we are actively seeking to, on our Labour Party list, we had I think about 5 people of South Asian heritage on the party list last time, although Dr. Chowdhury was the only one to be successful. I think that people will see the Labour Party list for this election this year with some new and some old Indian faces on our list, and I'm hoping that Dr. Chowdhury will be joined by other people of South Asian heritage in Parliament. Look, Labour realises that the majority of the Indian community support us. So naturally, of course, we want our MPs to be reflective of that support. So I'm confident we'll see some more Indian faces in Parliament representing Labour.
When compared with the Labour Party, your party seems to lag so far behind in terms of proximity to the Indians. What do you have to say to that?
Well, I actually don't accept that at all, because for the last 3 or 4 years, I would have said we champion Indian community issues very vigorously. We, for example, tonight, 4 of us with the leader coming to the celebration of the Indian Republic Day in the Gandhi Centre, and I have Indian communities contact me all the time with constituent work. For example, this round with the Green Acre, lots of the sufferers are from Indian background. So I actually do not accept for 1 minute that we are lagging behind, but there is always room for improvement. National would absolutely gear up.
The question one should ask, where have they been last 100 years? The Indian community has been here all these years. Why hasn't the National Party ever supported or promoted any candidate in the Parliament? Where were they? It's the Labour Party, which is the first one to have a person of the South Asian, myself, to be in the Parliament. We are the one who had the first Indian Governor General in New Zealand. Why hasn't the National Party ever done that? So I take a lot of pride that we are promoting the wider Indian community in many different ways, whether, as I said, in the boards or committees of the government. And recently we appointed 2 people, actually 4 people, Indian people, to be the member of the health boards in New Zealand, and that's a great credit.
I like to think the Indian community are probably we are more drifting towards the Indian community. I think in the past, probably National tend to be quite reserved in our way of outreaching, and I think you have seen we have Vavi, we have many now Indian New Zealanders within our party, and that helped us to reach out to the Indian community. I think, judging by the number of invitations the leader is getting, and by how many functions we are attending, and not just attending the functions, by how many Indian New Zealanders coming to our office approaching us to solve their individual issue. I would say, like to think we are getting a lot closer, and will intend to improve on that.
As somebody who comes from a various ethnic background, you need those kind of policy which is fair, equal, and just for everybody. And this is what we promote. Whereas the opposition, clearly they are more conservative. They promote those people who are richer people, well-to-do people, and those the policy which generally for the higher end of the economic base, if you like, and our people come from the lower end, socioeconomics, and that's where our policy, the Labour Party, fit in very well, and we are very proud to represent the Indian community in many ways. I mean, for example, we're just talking about, the previous government, the National Party, actually closed the New Zealand High Commission in Delhi, and it was the Langi government, the Labour government, which came along, and then we reopened the New Zealand High Commission there, and we had Sir Edmund Hillary as the High Commissioner in India, and that's a credit goes to the Labour Party again.
We do have Dr. Ashraf Chowdhury, who was born in the Punjab, although in the Pakistani part, But of course, people from the Punjab, whether they live in Pakistan or India, have a strong Punjabi identity. So we do have, of course, a South Asian MP, and I know that Dr. Chowdhury is very proud of his heritage from the Indian subcontinent. But we have, of course, an Indian Governor General appointed by the Labour government in Anand Satyanand, which is a fantastic look for our country, because not only, of course, is Judge Satyanand a very highly skilled person, but his presence there as the first non-European, non-Maori Governor General is a statement to all New Zealanders that the Indian community has come of age in our country, so that he holds in effect the highest office in the land as the Queen's representative. So there is a presence of Indian and South Asian people in the government, and but not enough, of course, because we have a large Indian community, and traditionally they have been strongly supportive of the Labour Party.
We are very happy with the situation as it is right now, and we have very solid policies for all of our people, and our policy is going to be very broad-based for everybody, including the migrant community, including the ethnic community. Our policy is going to be applicable for everybody, and you will see in the coming months we'll be putting out new policies in relation to tax, in relation to education, in relation to housing. The whole lot of new policies are going to be coming out, and they'll be basis of our next election campaign in the coming months.
And now, in view of the new demand from the Indian community, how does Labour would be pacifying that community in putting one of its members into?
Well, certainly, as I just said there before, that we are now actively seeking a couple of people to be on the list, and I can be very confident that we'll have at least one person of Indian community to be part of our next caucus.
So that means it has taken, even for Labour, 150 years?
No, well, we've been, as I said, Labour is a party which has elected me. 5 years now I've been the party, and I've been promoting the values that we adhere to.
Of late, there have been vociferous demands from the Indian community of having a mainland Indian who is a Kiwi Indian would want to enter the parliament, and merely having Indians on the list would serve that purpose, do you think, or is Labour going to adopt a different strategy to facilitate an Indian entering the beehive?
Look, I think that most people who look at politics seriously can see that the Labour Party is the party that most migrant communities support. Our list is always very diverse. You just have to come to any Labour Party conference and you'll see a tremendous number of Indians, Chinese, Koreans, Iraqis, and all sorts of people there. Our party list at every election since we had MMP has had lots of different people on it. Now, of course, how many of those we get into Parliament depends on how much support we get. So I hope that people will look at the Labour Party list and say, look, there's some fantastic people here. The more votes they get, the more chances people have got to get in.
Traditionally, the community has been perceived as very close to the Labour Party, although the ideology of the party does not amply reflect their way of life. It should have been more inclined towards the National Party in the proximity to its beliefs. Where National failed, Labour gained by aligning itself through interaction, communication, and regularly attending several of their events. National has woken up to this disparity only recently, and with John Key at National's helm, a vigorous exercise is underway to be more involved in Indian activities and woo the community to its fold. But some argue and contemplate what has prevented a Kiwi of Indian origin to grace the Parliament so far. It is $1 million question. While some attribute this phenomenon to political naivety, there are others who speak of the absence of coherence within the segmented community. There are voices that term it as an amalgamation of communities whose complex structure is bitterly divided from the inside on a host of factors such as language, regional, religious, caste, and other ethnic factors. Infighting rules the roost, some say.
You were involved in the freedom struggle.
That's right.
So could you just air your thoughts? What does freedom mean to you now, and then in 60 years how far India has come about? Just your thoughts.
Well, that time we were involved in freedom,
and we like to fight for India, to free India.
When you see the present India, how do you feel?
Not very good, very sad story. After Nehru and Gandhi, Sardar Patel and all leaders passed away, and people who rule the country, not very good. Corruption everywhere.
Some of the saner elements in the older generation have distanced themselves away from the dominating class who are ensconced in the various associations that have sprung up in the past years. They say intense rivalry, lack of respect and inclusiveness, and utter disunity forced them off the scene. One classic example, they say, is associations and counter-associations, weaving a web of animosity and confusion. Some in the community rued that, speaking on a general scale, Indians have the tendency to bring the same mentality to their adopted countries. It is a hard task for a political party, unaware of the complexities surrounding this community, to win its favour. Ravi Masuku, who challenged the Prime Minister Helen Clark on a national ticket in the 2005 election, is no patriarch and is perceived as a safe bet. He does not have any specific alliances with any major Indian organisations and brings with him a genuine grassroots level of work ethic from both India and within the Mount Albert electorate. This May, he is also tipped to move up the ladder, raising his list ranking and increasing his chances of acquiring the elusive place in Parliament. In March, the pastor from Hillsborough, in all likelihood, is expected to win his party's nomination to run against the Prime Minister in his quest to conquer Mount Albert. The two major political parties this time have certainly come under increasing pressure to have a Kiwi of Indian origin enter the sprawling beehive. The complex battle for a large slice of the Indian vote has begun, and only time will tell which party will romp home at the 2008 hustings with a Kiwi Indian in tow.
And for the last 5 years, I have done a lot of work for our community in many different ways, including celebrating Diwali in the Parliament for the last 5 years, and including a whole lot of other functions that we do throughout the country. And I've been able to help our people in celebrating them in terms of honors, in terms of making them JP, and in terms of promoting our people in various boards and committees. So it's been a great honor for me to be able to represent the wider Indian community and the South Asian community in New Zealand. Of course, there's always a need for more representation, and clearly now our population, people of Indian origin, now over 100,000 in New Zealand, and clearly we need more people. And I can assure you that particularly from Labour Party side, we're going to make sure that we have more representation from the Indian community, and particularly I'm looking at and promoting with my colleagues having at least one or two more members of Parliament from our community to be in the Parliament in year 2008.
We go into the election with a leader who's still full of fresh ideas, still full of energy, and a party that is more representative of all New Zealanders than any other in this